Gotta get back in time. Gotta get back in time. Have you ever wanted to just go back in time? Go back to a time when things were simpler, things were better. You think, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? You remember fondly a time in your past when maybe things were happier or things were better, or it just seems that way through the lens of nostalgia anyway. Well, for me, I have been looking back fondly on those early 2000s and early 2010s era and just wanting to relive that time. And I've been on a kick recently collecting for my PS3, and as I've mentioned before, collecting DVDs and things of that nature from that time period. So I have decided that summer 2023, at least for the 90-ish day period that encapsulates June, July, and August of 2023, that I am going to make the PS3 my number one entertainment device. I'm going to use it every single day. And here's what I'd really like to get into. So I have a bunch of DVDs, but I've got all 10 seasons of Smallville on DVD. I've watched about a season and a half or so previously, so I'm going to get back into that starting around the second season, middle of the second season, I think is where I left off. So I'm going to watch that on DVD using my PS3 and the PS3 controller to navigate it and all that kind of stuff every night for the next 90 days or so. Get as far as I can into that as possible. And I've purchased about 130 PS3 games in the last 6 months or so, and I would like to install and check out every single one of those games. But there's a few games that I have already discovered that I definitely want to go back to and play. Games that I've picked up that maybe, I've been intending to play for a long time. Final Fantasy 13, for one. I absolutely love what I've played of Final Fantasy 13. I have played the opening 3 or 4 hours of that game like 4 or 5 times over the years, and absolutely loved it. Loved the art style, loved the music, loved the combat style. I know a lot of people complain about Final Fantasy 13 being kind of a hallway simulator or whatever, but I absolutely do not mind linear games. I like the story that's being told. I think 13 is one of the most gorgeous looking games on any system ever. The art style is just phenomenal. The music is phenomenal, so I really want to get further into Final Fantasy 13. Red Dead Redemption is a game that I completely missed out on, and I would definitely like to put some time into that. I played Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare, strangely enough, the DLC, which has a physical disc, and I played that with Cousin Mike, but I've never actually played the base game. So I'm going to go back and play some Red Dead Redemption and see if I get hooked by that. And then several years ago, I played Uncharted 1, but I never continued with the series, so I would look to play Uncharted 2, which is considered by many people to be the best game in the series, or definitely a huge leap forward from 1 to 2, so I'm looking forward to checking that out in the coming time, over the summer here. But then a couple other games that have piqued my interest. I picked up a copy of Splatterhouse on PS3, which I had to pay a fair amount of money for, so I would definitely like to get some return on investment there. I played a little bit of Splatterhouse last night, and I absolutely loved it. I've heard that it can be kind of a grind fest, but really looking forward to getting further into Splatterhouse. There's a few other games I've recently started to play, including Tom Clancy's Hawks, Hawx, which is a flight combat game in the vein of, say, Ace Combat or something. I really like it. The controls are fantastic. It's kind of like a air combat game for beginners, I would say. The controls are much more arcadey than something like Ace Combat. it just, for some reason, it feels better in the hands trying to control it than a lot of other flight sim and flight combat games that I have played. So I'm going to play through that. I also want to play some of 3D Game Heroes. That's another game that I paid a fair amount of money for that I have never checked out, so I would definitely like to check that out. So back and forth every night, over the next 90 days or so, I am going to be watching an episode of something later in the evening and checking out a game, you know, when I get home from work or whatever for an hour or 2 hours. That does not mean I won't be playing my Switch or PC or other consoles, but that evening period of time when I come home from work is going to be dedicated to the PS3. Have you ever tried to do something like this, like a challenge or something? Let me know down in the comments what you think of my crazy idea. Am I going to have a blast to the past? How many of these games that I play am I going to discover don't hold up as well as I want them to? Because I've really noticed in the last little while, checking out various PS3 games, while the PS3 is kind of the beginning of the modern era of gaming in terms of standardized controls and that sort of thing, it's surprising how many games are pretty darn janky on the PS3. There's some absolute bangers like The Last of Us, for example, which is just smooth as butter. You know, games like Persona 5 on the PS3 are an absolute, you know, just blessing, just fantastic game on the PS3. But there's other games that are pretty janky, pretty rough to control. I put the first Tomb Raider reboot in a couple of days ago and started to check that out. And while the game looks fantastic in a lot of places, it's a really cool game. The platforming and the camera control are kind of jank. I had a pretty hard time in that first sequence trying to escape the caves or tunnels or whatever, you know, these little platforming sections where you have to push this and jump over on that. And like, I found the controls, the edge detection and stuff to be pretty janky. It was falling through cracks and stuff like that. I'm going to persist with that game because that's something that I have very much wanted to experience and just never got around to. So I will be persisting with Tomb Raider despite the jank. A couple other games that I do want to check out as well. I forget the name of it now, but there's several other games that I do want to put a few hours into and, you know, really get the gist of those games. But I would like to get through that entire collection of 130 or so games that I have bought, plus whatever I buy over the summer as well, which, you know, I tend to be picking up these PS3 games for $5 here and $3 or $4 there. So, you know, chances are I'll probably pick up another 30 games or 40 games over the summer at those prices. So anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching this short little video. I've mostly done this as accountability for myself, that I'm going to report to you, in my YouTube channel comments and on Twitter. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, it's at NerdMovie1, where I will be talking about this pretty much every day. I think my challenge to relive the early 2010s by spending some time with my PS3 every single day. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay classy.